In today's video, we're going to go ahead and take a look at all the new tips and tricks, some new features that you could do with the new Hero 8. Because if this is your first action cam, or maybe you're coming from like a Hero 7 or older, although these two action cams externally, they look very similar because they still have the action cam shape, it's the new UI that's found on the Hero 8 and that's totally redesigned. There's new features and new things you could do, like shortcuts that every Hero 8 owner needs to know. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off this video with the common basics and work our way up to the more complex unknown features. And trust me, there's a lot. So enough talk, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, make sure your device is up to date with the latest firmware. You can do this by easily just connecting it via Wi-Fi to your GoPro by using the GoPro companion app. If you haven't paired it up yet, don't worry, as soon as you turn on your device, your GoPro itself will walk you through the entire process. So powering on the GoPro is as simple as just simply tapping on the mode button once. Right here, this is the new UI. On the top is still just like the previous GoPros, looks exactly the same. You see your SD card stats right here with the time remaining, your camera mode, and your battery life percentage. Down here on these corners, you see these two little icons. These are shortcuts. They're fully customizable, and this is new for this generation GoPro. If you press and hold on them, you could swap these shortcuts to do other things, such as slow mo. We could change it to hyper smooth to enable or disable, or we could change it to bitrate. When bitrate is selected, this is great to know. Let's say, for example, with a high bitrate, if we max it out on high, the footage that you're shooting will hold more information. Somewhat similar like when you're taking photos raw. When it holds more data, you have more freedom to adjust certain things like exposure, color contrast, and all that good stuff during post. So if this is stuff that you like to do, I would recommend to have it on a higher bitrate. But if you don't plan on going back and editing anything, you can just leave it on lower, and will also give you more storage to record. As you see on top right there, we have 9 hours to record instead of 7. Below that, I have the lens selection, and I really do like this shortcut because it allows me to not only preview the different options that I have, but also eliminates the need to having to go into the camera settings and adjust it there. This works on all the other modes, especially on photos. On photos is really useful, especially when you're trying to take a still image. This allows you to capture everything that you're trying to capture properly. But again, all 4 of these little circle icons are fully customizable for whatever shortcut you want. So experiment and take a look at the list. Another new thing for the Hero 8, right here where you see your resolution, you could create some preset ones and save them. You could edit the current ones as well, and you by default you already have some automatically already created. So like your standard, active, slow-mo, and you could create your very own. You could edit the current ones too, for example. So if we want to change this one to this resolution at this frame rate, just simply tap the blue. And right here we can also select the edit, the wide lens or linear if we want that. And hyper smooth, we can also turn that on or disable it, low light, clips, and you hit the back button and now you're ready to record with those settings that you left it. It also saves too. But it's the same thing that we just saw with the shortcuts, but this way it could actually be saved and you can simply just tap on it when you want to film with that preset setting that you already have. You can also create new ones, and when you create new ones, you can actually change the icon as well. This way, for whatever activity you're trying to do, you could quickly identify them. Now, don't forget, on the Viewfinder, you can still tap anywhere on the blinked surface to remove all these icons if you want them out of your way. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, these shortcuts also work on other modes as well, like photos and time-lapse. You can also create and adjust some of the preset settings for those different modes as well. Now by swiping down your screen, this is how you get to your control center. Here is not only where you see that, but you see other stats like the time, GPS, cell phone connectivity, cloud, and date. And by going in your preferences, this is where you find the GoPro setting. One that I recommend to turn on because it's actually really useful, in my opinion, is the voice control. Now by default, it's going to be turned off, but if we turn it on, let me show you something cool real quick. And you go ahead and also turn on voice on to wake up the GoPro. If you go down, you can also tap on the command and you're gonna go ahead and see the entire list of voice commands you can say to the GoPro. But there's a couple of hidden ones I'm gonna show you. But these commands are really basic. Now I'm gonna warn you, I'm gonna turn your device on and off a couple of times, but just let it do its thing. Let me show you something. You ready? 3, 2, 1. GoPro, turn off. GoPro, turn on. Now you see by default I have it on video mode, but if I say GoPro, take a photo. See, it took the photo without being asked to manually change the mode. But voice command isn't just useful for that. Let's say you have two cameras and you could just say, GoPro, start recording. This is a really quick way to control multiple GoPros at once. And if you say GoPro add highlight, it'll actually mark that. But not only that, depending on the GoPro, for some reason it's not yet added on the Hero 8. But if you say something like, that was sick, it'll actually also highlight that clip. So when you go back, it's going to be highlighted at that part that something radical happened. You can also use this word too if you want to. It also does the same thing, but it doesn't support it on the Hero 8 for some odd reason. Maybe in the near future this is all going to get added, but that's a little hidden command. Now back at the viewfinder, another quick way to select to different modes is by tapping on the screen and moving your finger across like so. Now you may have noticed I have the rule of third, in other words better known as the grid. This is new for the Hero 8, and to enable this, simply bring down the control center, and right here you see it right there, tap on that and that will enable or disable it. Another nifty tool to also be aware of is the spot meter. To activate, simply just press and hold on whatever subject on the screen, and then this little box pops up. You can move it around, rearrange it, and hit the little check mark once you're satisfied. Was this enabled, what this allows you to do whenever you're walking underneath trees, shadows, it just makes sure the lighting is locked into place so it doesn't ruin the shot whenever you're walking in a really bright room environment and then you walk into a dark room. And to remove the lock, you simply just double tap. Now, final important things to know about the control center. So here, you not only see the quick icon to disable or enable voice control. When it's grayed out, voice control is turned off, so you don't have to go back into settings. And when you highlight it, it's back on. And then here, this little music note, of course, this is just a beep. Your camera is just going to beep whatever action you press on the screen. That beeping sound can be really annoying, so I like to personally have this off. And right next to that is the quick capture. When this is enabled, basically what it does is when you turn off the GoPro completely, you can quickly record by tapping the shutter button, even though the camera was off. And then if you tap the shutter button again, it's not only going to stop recording, but it's going to also turn off the camera completely. This basically just saves you time from turning on the camera and then hitting record. Another feature you could do with this quick record is if you tap the shutter button again, but then press it again, but hold it down for a few seconds, it's going to automatically switch to a time lapse and it will begin recording. So that's basically what that rabbit icon does. Now next to that is a lock icon. When this is selected, it's going to lock the screen from the touchscreen. So this is great to enable if you're underwater and you don't want to accidentally move a setting around or something like that, because in order for you to get access to the touchscreen, you have to swipe down and tap the little unlock icon to get access to everything again. Think of it like a hold button. Then the rule of third, where you went and covered that, and then this thing right here, this will actually lock the orientation of your device. So if you rotate it like so and you lock it, it's gonna stay vertical. Now moving on, back at the viewfinder, don't worry, we're almost done. If you swipe from the bottom like so, this is where you can actually rewatch all the media that you took and shot. So by tapping this little foursquare icon, you can actually scroll and watch all the footage. And not only that, you can also replay it. You can also pause and play. Then the icon right next to it is the ski. This allows you to actually go through the clip, and this little arrow next to it allows you to highlight it in case something awesome happened and you want to bookmark it. If it's a video, of course, you have the little volume option right here. You have three settings: mute, mid, volume, or off. And then here you also have the little tool to delete it. You can also go back here and hit the little check mark, and now you can select all the clips so you could quickly clear out space. And surprisingly, this is really quick and responsive. Alright, now that we're done talking about the internal UI, let's move on to the GoPro app, because this is a really important tip that everybody should know. A lot of people always tend to forget they have this feature. If you launch the GoPro app and connect it to your GoPro, hit the control and just let it join. Here's your viewfinder. You can select the different modes, but if you tap on the little wrench icon next to the power off button, if you go down to locate camera, when this is enabled, your GoPro is going to start beeping. So in case you ever drop your GoPro, you lost it somewhere and you need to quickly locate it, but you can still connect to it, you could enable this. The GoPro is going to start beeping and you can locate your GoPro quicker. You don't know how many friends I know that totally forgot about this feature and actually lost their device. So I'm telling you this so you can learn from their mistake. Now while we're here, you might as well go up to find the LED section. By default, the GoPro, the front and rear LEDs are always going to flash red when it's recording or taking a photo. I personally like to have the front ones off. This way the camera is less distracting in a public place, so only I can see the stats of the camera if it's recording. Now finally done with all the software side of things, let's finally go ahead and move on about the external body. There's a lot of useful things you could do with this new Hero 8. Now unfortunately, yes, I know the lens isn't removable anymore, which is really sad. And because of that, if you're really concerned about not cracking the screen, I'll highly recommend picking up a screen protector or an ND filter, which is what I did. I'm just waiting for it to get delivered for the accessory guide video. But if you're really concerned about the glass, those are some excellent solutions. Now this is the first time that GoPro actually is using a single door to keep the battery and the SD card as well as the charging port secure. It comes off really easy. When you see the little red latch, that means it's undone, the door is unsecure, and it pops off just like an ordinary GoPro. Now the benefits of removing it, since this thing is made out of metal, you know how the SD card is somewhat of a pain, a challenge to get out unless you have keys or something like that. What I like to personally do is take off the door and use the pointy part, use that as the tool to eject the SD card, and I can also place it back in using it. And when I'm done, I can just reattach it. Really useful. Now another thing I like to do when shooting time lapse, I do like to actually leave the door attached and have it connected to an external power source. By doing this, the door also acts like a shield, a water shield, in case it does begin raining. So you don't have to remove it. The door still somewhat serves a purpose. Now underneath the GoPro, this new mount, the mounting fingers is what these things are called, is removable. If you have to remove it, it's really easy. There's these screws right here where you can just do this and it just literally pops out of place. They sell replacement units on GoPro's website, so in case one happens to snap off or maybe over time they start wearing out, they're really easy to swap and replace and very inexpensive from what I've seen. Now the touchscreen is amazing, but if you ever find yourself underwater, you know it's useless because the touchscreen is unresponsive. If you have to change some settings while you're underwater, if you power on the GoPro and press both the mode and the shutter button at the same time, you have quick access to all the pre-made presets that you created. So you can select it right here, and then to exit, just simply go over it and just tap the shutter button. It's a cool little nifty trick to know about in case you're in those situations. But out of the box, the GoPro itself is waterproof up to 33 feet, but there is a housing you could buy that will allow you to actually take this thing 196 feet in the water. So if you need that extra submersion rate, you could go ahead and get that accessory. And if your camera is ever acting up, don't forget, if you hold down the power and the shutter button, hold it for a few seconds, it's gonna reset your GoPro. And in case that doesn't work, you can always pull out the battery. And lastly, if you ever find yourself having to hold the camera by hand, it's best to hold your camera like this, because on the Hero 8, the microphones have been relocated on different new locations. So now you can actually hold it like so. Even the shutter button on top, there's no microphones, you also hold it this way as well. And that is all the nifty features that you could do with the Hero 8. Make sure to stay tuned for my accessory video, which I'm going to talk more about this thing and a bunch of other stuff. Now if you want to maybe take your adventures up in the sky, maybe you want to check out a drone, check out my DJI Mavic Zoom video review right here. And this video over here, that is a video that YouTube is recommending specifically for you. They say you're going to like it. Give it a shot. Let me know in the comments if YouTube was right. Anyway folks, thank you once again for watching. Take care, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.